Okay. So, George, we're excited to start the meeting and get everybody acquainted with Bill 360. So I will let you take it over. And
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you. As Kylie said, my name is George Mahowold. I'm an accounting partner representative for Bill360, a company that was founded just about 4.5 years ago. Um, I've got my colleague Michael Bishop at our home office in Jacksonville
Hey,
on
everybody.
the line as well. He's going to help us with a demonstration. So really, thank you for taking some time at the end of your day here and joining us. Um, who is Bill360? Well, we are a company that was founded in 2021 after about 25 years in the payment space. My CEO started this company with the ethos in mind that he wanted to help out folks in the SMB, small and medium-sized business space, with accounts receivable automation capabilities that he saw in the enterprise, the large client space, and bring that down to the SMB space at minimal cost. And it's a huge marketplace, right? QuickBooks has an incredible placement out there. So the very first integration that we decided to focus on is QuickBooks, and that's all versions of QuickBooks, including desktop, that we're finding is still out there, and folks are still loving it for whatever reason. And we've got many, many clients using QBD, E, obviously, and O. And so we first, when we started the company, we decided that we would interview, and we interviewed 1,100 merchants using QuickBooks, all different versions, and we gleaned a lot of detail as to what they saw was lacking with QuickBooks and what they wanted to see in any add-on uh, software. And that's really what we are. We're simply a software as a service add-on. Uh, Everyone's still using QuickBooks. We're simply there to make the payments experience better in many ways that Michael will get a chance to show us how. So we're purpose built for SMB. Um, we are always making upgrades and changes based upon what our clients now, we've got over 7,000 users of our software, tell us. So we're open-eared. We survey our clients and ask them, what next? What more could we be doing? Well, surcharging is one thing that we're unveiling as we're simply beta testing now, and that'll be unveiled to all of our clients shortly. We have terrific ratings in the industry, a very close association as a master processor, merchant services processor. We are what's called a payments facilitator. So we are at the highest echelon within card brand world, so to speak. Michael, what do you have to add before we jump into things more
I'm
so?
ready.
You're
I'm ready
ready.
to go. Yeah.
You're born ready. And so, Kylie, wanted to thank you personally for inviting us to speak to your ASG grouping in that we got a wonderful product here that is taking um, really the industry by storm because of, again, our capabilities. We'll jump right in and talk to you why that is.
Yeah.
All right.
Is this my cue? My
Go
turn.
right ahead, Michael. Yeah, there you
All right.
go.
I'm going to stop sharing and then pull up the product and reshare. Just give me one moment here. Alrighty. Almost there.
Michael has run personally, what, about 17, 1,800 of these things
Mm-hmm.
at this juncture, Michael. These things meaning demonstrations, and
Demonstrations.
he talks to accountants all day long and software companies that want to have a payments agenda.
Yeah. Let me know when you can see that. It should be sharing.
You got it. You got
All
it.
right. Sweet. So I'll keep this tight and relevant. Like George said, we did 1,100 surveys early on to identify the headaches and the frustrations. There's plenty of them, as I find when I'm talking to accountants. Rarely do I hear, we love QuickBooks and everything about them. There's always something they can improve on. So we decided to build a tool that improves upon gaps, specifically in accounts receivable, the invoice to cash cycle. We found three that I see make the biggest impact. So I'm going to focus on those three gaps that we fill in. But before I get into the actual demo, I just kind of wanted to set the frame around what our mission is and what's the goal. So we fill in these three gaps I'm going to get into. But when we were doing the surveys, again, people had complaints. They had frustrations about the AR process in QuickBooks. But one of the questions was, okay, well, why haven't you decided to pursue technology or a software to solve it? And it came down to two things: cost. We don't want to spend any more money than we are already spending. And then second is change. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We don't want to throw a wrench in the system. We want to keep doing it the same way we're doing. So we've decided to package Bill360 in a way that does not add cost, it actually reduces cost because we're a payments processor, and doesn't change the workflow. You actually keep the workflow the same, the way you're creating the invoice, whether your customers are creating their invoices today inside of QuickBooks Online or desktop or Xero. And that's when Bill360 cues in the automation. So it should be reducing steps rather than replacing or adding steps. All right, let's get into these three gaps that we fill. The first we can talk about are reminders. Very rarely do I run across someone who uses the reminders. A B2B business that is using reminders seems to be like a unicorn. Never understood why when I first started until I asked and realized that QuickBooks is a global setting. The reminders are automated and you can set up 3 of them, as y'all know, but it's a global setting. So once I flip that switch, all of my customers are going to receive that. If they have an invoice outstanding, they're going to receive it in that sequence. The global setting was a frustration. Also, the fact that the reminders are branded from Intuit QuickBooks. You know, the buyer knows that this isn't coming from the people I work with at this business. And it just makes you look like another QuickBooks user. You know, this is not like there's not a separation. So here's what we've done. We've allowed customers to group up their buyers. Keep it simple. You could locate your best paying customers that don't need a reminder for whatever reason, and we can assign them. We pull the customer record from QuickBooks. So you just find those customers that are already stored there. They're able to add those customers to this schedule and completely customize how few or how many reminders they feel are going to be appropriate for this group of customers. You can customize the frequency. Also, you can customize the language on the invoice reminder, on the email reminder. So it's automated, but it's keeping the communication personable still. On the flip side, if you've got folks that typically pay late, then you're able to enroll them in a higher touch schedule. So again, it's all about the automation and saving time, but doing it in a way where you're not bothering your best paying customers. You're not throwing a wrench in the relationships that you built. So we get a lot of good feedback on this. Does it fix 100%? I wish. It would make my job easier. It doesn't, right? You're still gonna have to follow up with some people, give them a call, whatever. Maybe the email bounced. So we'll get into some follow-up tools that we have here in a second, but I want to jump over to the buyer's experience that we've improved on. So the way it works, again, invoice is still created in the core accounting system, which is nice. I have to relearn that. Same exact process. As long as we're connected, then we will capture the data that we need and present the email to the buyer. So instead of Intuit doing it, it's us. It's all white labeled for the supplier, so you don't see Bill360 everywhere. And they get a link to pay. You can customize the language on the email, but they get a link to pay. When they click that link, rather than it being what y'all see in QuickBooks with the single invoice pay form, this would be the buyer's view that you see here. So without having to log in, without having to sign up with Bill360, I'm able to get a view on all of my outstanding invoices. This is huge for B2B use cases, specifically because a lot of repeat business. A lot of times these buyers have multiple invoices outstanding, and QuickBooks, as some of y'all know, does not allow the buyer to pay online off of a statement. Why? I don't know. Maybe some of y'all do, and you can help me understand, but it should be the standard. It's not. So folks, when they have multiple invoices outstanding and they receive a statement, they either send in a check, which we don't need to talk about the frustrations with check, and or they do ACH through the bank, like just bank to bank. I take your account routing, I go to my online bank and pay you that way. But there's so many frustrations that go along with those ways of getting paid. You got to automatically or got to manually mark the invoices paid. You got to get remittance info from the buyer. Hope you do. If you don't, then now you're playing detective. It just adds a lot of friction to the process. What you see here removes that. I can see all my open invoices. If I'm ready to pay just two, rather than sending in a check for the total and making the accountant find what that 150 is responsible for, I'm able to pay that and it automatically will tie into QuickBooks and mark those invoices as paid. So again, just taking the friction for the buying experience, right? I'm not having to look at the statement and then go to my online bank and cross-reference what I'm trying to pay and then send remittance after I send it. I can do it in just a few clicks. I can also save my payment information for the next time that we do business with each other. Now I'm kind of got another step, making it easy, making it like Amazon type of easy. Everything's saved there. You can check out in like 2 clicks. All right, this is the ability to see all the open invoices. Again, it's huge for people that are experiencing that today. But there's some more in here that's I think we should unpack. The whole idea of the buyer's experience is that we want to present the invoice to the buyer and then allow them to take action while they're looking at their invoices. What do I mean by that? Well, if you get the invoice ready to pay, we want you to pay right there on the invoice, like I showed you. But what about folks that extend terms? If I see this invoice and I've approved it and everything looks right, but I've been given 30 days to pay, rather than pushing that invoice to the side and then letting life get in the way, letting business get in the way, me potentially forgetting or relying on the supplier to reach out to remind me, I can actually schedule my payment on the due date that's been provided to me. It's easier for me as a buyer, more predictable cash flow for some of y'all's customers. But to keep it simple. Another use case is when I see the invoice, maybe I'm ready to pay now, but I have a question. Line item number 1 doesn't look right. Shipping details doesn't look right. Something's not adding up. Rather than emailing, again, leaving the invoice, rather than leaving the invoice and sending an email or giving a phone call, I can actually ask a question as a buyer right on the invoice, which will time and date stamp, archive for future reference on the supplier and the buyer's end. So if the supplier, the AR clerk is going to look at the AR aging report, they see something 20 days past due, he or she is going to be able to check and view any communication that's been held between her team and the buyer. And that's the whole idea here. This is what we call the collaboration tools. The idea is any communication about the invoice stays with the invoice. It's not in Slack or Teams or email or phone calls. It's right here on the invoice to find later. Documents allows you to share photos. It could be proof of work, could be damaged goods from the buyer they're uploading to their invoice. Purchase orders, it's just allowing the buyer or the supplier to attach documents with the invoice after it's been sent. Go back to the main screen here. The key takeaways for the buyer's experience is definitely going to be the ability to pay multiple invoices at a time, the ability to schedule payments, the ability to ask questions on the invoice, the ability to look at 18 months of historical data, looking at 18 months of old invoices that are paid now. I can view those and print them off for myself. I don't need to call and ask for copies of paid invoices. And the final thing I want to share with y'all on the buyer's experience is the ability to set up autopay. Not the same type of autopay that you would see in QuickBooks or the core accounting systems out there. What I mean by that is it is not bound to a recurring invoice. So a lot of people I run across, they have a ton of repeat business, sometimes doing business every month with the same company, but it's not the same amount. It's not the same invoice. It's not the same product that they're reordering. So you can't have like a memorized transaction in QuickBooks or the core accounting system. It's got to be something you create manually. In our platform, it doesn't matter if there's a memorized transaction, it doesn't matter if there's a recurring invoice. What this allows me to do, what AutoPay allows me to do, is say, all right, I've been working with Kylee for 5 years. I always pay via ACH. I always intend to pay on the due date that she provides to me. And I do business every month with her, and it's typically not more than $2,000. So I could set a maximum amount at $2,500. And then once I save this, any invoice that comes in under $2,500 would be paid on the due date with preferred payment method. Makes it easier for me as a buyer.
And Michael, pausing just for a second, I always like to say if anyone has a question about any of the feature set that we've shown thus far, please interject. Michael likes questions as they come through. You don't have to wait till the end. Go right ahead, Michael.
All right. This is the buyer's experience. We'll go back to the supplier's view here. All right, so far we've covered buyer portal. We've covered the reminders and how that works. Go back to follow-up. I want to keep talking about follow-up. Again, the automated reminders are not going to reduce day sales outstanding by 100%. You know, this isn't going to get everybody to pay right on time, but it will automate a ton of manual follow-up. When there needs to be manual follow-up after using the automation, we offer a dashboard that pulls the data from QuickBooks as like a mirror to QuickBooks, just presenting that data in AR in a prettier way. We get where's my money, what's outstanding, past due, doing the next 30 days. This is simple stuff, but we also have unique KPIs like day sales outstanding tracking. How long is it taking me to receive payment from my customers currently? And then a month over month trend. How well are we doing at reducing day sales outstanding? AR aging is right on the dashboard. Highest past due balances. Which customers owe me the most? That's past due. Notifications and alerts is a great one. This is huge for those small business owners that aren't standing in front of a bank feed all day waiting to get paid. They're out in the field. They're wearing different hats. They could check on the dashboard, look at notifications and alerts whenever they want, and they can get an update on what's happened today, yesterday. Anything that affects cash flow will populate here. So who just paid me, who just went past due, and the dashboard's actionable. So if I'm looking at, say, John Wick, who just went past due, I can drill down on that invoice super quickly and get all the activity I need, all the updates I need to make a better, faster decision. So this is the follow-up tools that I wanted to show you guys. And that's the ability to view who's opened this invoice, when did they open it. If the email is undeliverable and it bounced, maybe that AP contact doesn't work there anymore. I hear that as a big issue. We're going to notify you and we're going to let you know, and we'll keep it there. So if a team member goes to check on why this invoice is past due, you can see it super quickly. We could also take notes on the invoice level rather than the customer level. That's stored there, not shared with the buyer. Buyer won't be able to see that. Messages, again, conversations between supplier and buyer, like I showed y'all in the buyer's experience. And then you got documents. So it's the same exact view that the buyer has, the supplier also has. The only difference is they get to see who's opening the email and if the email had bounced. This seems to be a really, really big help, especially for those buyers that have multiple contacts that need to pay. Like if I send it to George, for example, but I know George is going to forward it to somebody, I can actually see that in the activity. I send it to George only, then I see Michael Bishop opens it. I know that this is going through the approval process. Or maybe George opens it and then it bounces to Michael Bishop. Now I can reach out to George and say, hey, it looks like you tried to forward it, but it bounced. I could run through every single feature. I would probably run out of time and lose y'all. So I won't do that to you. The main takeaways are, again, automating the reminders in a way that makes sense for repeat business industries. You can personalize that, giving the buyers different ways to pay and giving them a better experience, a more professional presentation, if you will, of your invoices. And then you get the collaboration tools. The last thing that I'll mention is credit card eligibility thresholds. Again, B2B scenarios, I hear people that are like, okay, I could do an invoice today, Michael, that's $100. And then tomorrow I could do an invoice that's 30 grand. There's a big range of our product and services that we offer. At some point, you don't want to accept credit cards. Like if, you don't want to take 3% hit on a $30,000 order. So what we offer is the ability to set a threshold on a invoice amount so that the buyer cannot pay via credit card on anything over that. So say 10 grand is your limit. Anything over 10 grand, they have to pay ACH or request credit card. Exceptions can be made to this rule. Like, for example, I was on a call with a guy yesterday that has a print shop. And he said, I've got 10 customers that pay me through credit card. They pay me through credit card every single time. That's like their process. That's the only people that pay me through credit card. Everyone else, I want to do ACH. So he's just going to set this up as no invoices can be paid by credit card. And then he'll select those 10 customers and allow them to pay via credit card. They just have to worry about team members accidentally sending out an invoice with a credit card payment link and then getting hit for 3% on 30 grand. Like he said, it's happened to him before. So this is going to mitigate that. George, I'll pass it back over to you. Those are the main takeaways. Again, packaging this in a way that doesn't affect workflow because you continue to create the invoices the same way you do today. In QBO and QBD, nothing changes. And cost for anyone that's watching this and their customers and y'all's customers, you get a special deal. It's free. No monthly software fee. Zero. Nada. No implementation fee waived. Kylee, Dakota, Brandon, they negotiate well for y'all and y'all's customers. Okay. So this is free. It's a free upgrade. We 2.99% on credit card. Yeah.
Over the barrel.
Same on credit card with QuickBooks, except if you're manually keying, we don't go to 3.5%. That's nice. That could be some savings there, but there's huge savings on ACH. Instead of 1% with no cap, like how QuickBooks has it today, we're 30 basis points, so 70% less, and we have a $10 cap.
And Michael, that's I was going to remind those that are listening that I think that Barron's has some very negotiated pricing. Kylee, is that correct? For ASG folks.
Oh yeah.
What Michael just quoted is what they have on their website, for the standard clients. But nevertheless, we find a terrific advantage fee wise to have a cap so low, and also
Even as far as the QSP rates for payments, there's still a $15 cap for QSPs only. So if their clients are on payroll or payments, excuse me, and are on the QSP pricing, they still have that $15 cap.
Oh, nice.
So
Yep,
y'all's
so
is
10,
still
yeah.
better.
Yep. Again, savings plus no change to the workflow. And wait, I didn't talk about support. That's really big. Most people
Huge.
are not super excited about QuickBooks support, as y'all know. But with us, we keep it old fashioned. Every new customer gets a human to work with. We call them customer success managers. And their whole goal, their whole mission, their whole job responsibility is to help a new customer, a new client, maximize their use case behind Bill360, doing whatever it takes to help. Whether that means I'm running trainings with individual team members, or that means running historical data through a tool we have in-house called Insight 360 to identify those groups of customers, who pays me on time, who typically doesn't, how do they pay, whether it means creating co-branded flyers to send out to buyers, notifying them of the new partnership with Bill360. You can expect a bit of a change to the way you pay your invoices. They're there every step of the way. And for someone that runs a ton of demos. I'm typically speaking to people like you guys are that are not tech savvy. They're not the most technologically sound folks. And it scares them talking about new software, but we're able to ease their mind, let them know they're going to have somebody that holds their hand every step of the way. We're not going to throw you to the wolves. We're not going to just throw you the software and give you a guide on how to run it. You get a human to chat with. So
So
that's it.
being
I'll
that
shut up.
most of ASG will be selling this product, maybe using it as well, but selling it to their clients for sure, would you rather them come to me for support and get a hold of you, or would you rather them go to their direct?
Yeah, they could just go straight to the direct, their direct contact. Yeah.
And they'll be introduced, Kylee, during the what we call the install, if you want to even call it that, when they connect to us. They're going to forge a relationship with a representative that will spend any amount of time it takes to get them started, get them trained, get the staff trained. If you get a new employee, we offer to train that person as well. That first month, we just want all questions resolved. We want uh, the new client to know what they have, you know, at their fingertips now. It's an add-on software to QuickBooks is the best way to describe it. We're not telling people to get out of QuickBooks. Rather, we're simply going to be presenting the invoice and taking care of the payment. Yeah. So we take care of that customer service. We're old-fashioned, as Michael said. When we started the predecessor to this company in 2001, we noticed that in business to business, people like to speak to somebody. And the trend, as we all know, with AI is to not speak with a human. And so many of our competitors that charge $50, $75, $100 per month just for the software are going to this route of asking 5 to 7 questions through a chatbot. And then there's the possibility, if the chatbot can't help with the issue, then there's the possibility that a live future call can be scheduled. Whereas, we offer live 24/7 support. People like email better. We provide support in that context with that same individual, but we just learned that our customer retention from our experience is sky high when we can offer. And by the way, it's not cheap, right, to offer human support, but we retain our clients year over year at the highest rate, actually, in the industry. For I think that reason, and our software is pretty good too, as you can see. Yeah. Are there any other questions that we can answer from the field before we go on here?
Tammy, if you have any, then feel free to put them in. Most of this will be sent out to other people, so we'll be fielding questions more in email. But
And Michael, do you want to put the last slide up? I think it is just for the heck of it, to make sure people know that if you're part of the ASG grouping already, nothing will change in terms of the free software upgrades. Your share in the 75% revenue share, recurring revenue, is the same. Lead tracking, landing page for ease of referrals. So, in other words, if you've got folks that you think, clients that you've got would be interested in this, we make it super, super easy. We have a landing page that we'll send out, and it just makes engaging with us very simple.
and that 75% is the normal that you get paid from us. So we just wanted to double down and say that you're still getting your normal 75% unless you are an MSP and you make 50.
Okay, that's right. MSPs are 50.
Michael, there was a question in the chat. Do you see it?
Yes. Tammy, the question is, do we have a auto charge feature that's recurring every month, like a subscription bill? No, we do not, but we service that use case 10 out of 10 times because they being the customer of Bill360 can set up a recurring invoice in QuickBooks. And then we will set up a supplier initiated auto pay. So it's the person getting paid that's going to put their buyer on auto pay. And we will not deliver the open invoice to the buyer. So they will get a paid receipt. So it's like auto charge, but we don't offer it because what we see a lot right now is folks will use, say, authorize.net for this use case. But then that's super frustrating because they've got this invoice and then a payment that's not attached together. So they're having to run all this recurring billing, all the subscription billing in one platform, and then batch it over into QuickBooks and do the manual tying. This would be all tied to the invoice. Again, without presenting it as an open invoice, they would just get a paid copy, a paid receipt. So long story short, yes,
Another way of
we do.
accomplishing the same. Yeah.
Right.
I hope
If there's a use case outside of that, by the way, Tammy, if there's a use case you think of that where like it's not tied to an invoice, let us know because it might be worth a conversation. But we haven't run into it yet.
I wanted to make mention also with the fees involved in accepting a credit card. We've opted to develop a new feature that we're unveiling in the next month, and that's called surcharging, whereby as a merchant, you can make the choice of whether to have the client pay for the credit card fee or not. That will be available in 48 states where it's legal today. And again, we're in beta test with a number of clients right now, and that will be unveiled later in July. Do we have any more questions from the field?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Well, it's been a delight in presenting to your group, Kylee. Why don't we stop the recording now, and